Hey guys, Steve Welch here. A lot of you guys asked me for my market updates, so I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys a little bit of a update on what's happening with the market, and then even more of what I think it's gonna do here going forward in the short term and even in a little bit longer term. So hopefully you guys can go ahead and hit that subscribe and that like button for me to help me out there. So here's kind of some things that I'm noticing. So a lot of people have done, in the past would come in and they would have offers from the online places, the Carvanas, the CarMaxes, those type of places, and they'd have offers from those places. Well, more and more what I'm noticing, so there's been some people that have told me they got offers a month or 2 months ago from those places, and now all of a sudden they're 3, 4, 5, 6, even had one that was $8,000 less for the exact same car, similar miles, similar similar time frame. I mean, we're only a couple months outside of that, but they've have thousands of dollars less from the same company for the offer on the same car. And they're thinking there's something wrong with the computer, something wrong with whatever. No, the computer is trying to follow the market. And to be quite honest, right now the market is kind of volatile, especially when it comes to the used car market, right? So you've got a lot of people that went out there and they bought these Kia Tellurides, these Hyundai Palisades, these the Jeep Wagoneers, these cars that are sought after or were sought after, and you had people paying $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over MSRP for those cars. So what that in turn did was that actually took a used one. So like, let's say that you have a new Kia Telluride, and let's say that it was a $40,000 MSRP. Let's just say, right? The dealership had it marked for $60,000, and there was no shortage of people willing to pay $60,000 for a Kia Telluride. For like a Jeep Wagoneer, right? The Jeep Wagoneers, those were going for over $100,000, and I think the sticker price on the things were like $80,000. So it was already high, and you're going for well over $100,000. There was things, certain cars were even as much as about $100,000 over, right? There's some cars out there that were doing that. So what's happened now is that new car market has kind of cooled on some of those cars. Now, as for Toyota hasn't caught up yet. There's still no Toyotas on the ground in any meaningful numbers anywhere in the country. There's just not, right? So that being said, so Toyotas are still sought after. There are still a lot of dealerships marking them over MSRP. They're doing a trick though, and pay attention to the trick that a lot of those dealers are doing. And what they're doing is they're actually going, well, we're going to mark it up 20 grand, and then all of a sudden you need X for your trade. So you need, I want 40 for my trade. Well, say your trade is worth 35. Well, they marked it up 20 grand. They go, you know what? We'll give you 40 for your trade. And then all they did was they gave you some of the markup onto your trade to make you feel better, but you still paid too much, right? Or you've had some people that were kind of turning around and saying, look, all right, so they're going to mark it up $20,000 for something like a Tundra, and then they'll go, look, we're going to give you a $5,000 discount on this car. Nobody else is giving you a $5,000 discount on a Tundra. You call around, find out if they'll give you $5,000 off of a Tundra. And then you call somebody like me and they say, hey, can I get $5,000 off of a Tundra? And the answer, no, you can't get $5,000 off of a Tundra. But the thing is, they started with a much higher number on the same car. So they started at 90,000. I started at 70,000. They gave you 5,000 off of 90, and I gave you nothing off of 70. Which one was the better deal, right? So that's kind of where things are going for that right now. So that's a big piece of it. So, but kind of getting back to, you had Chevy trucks, GMC trucks. You had a lot of these, Ford trucks. You couldn't find one, right? But they set a bunch of them in the field for a while, and all of a sudden they had extra trucks when they got their chips in. So all of the manufacturers are starting to catch up. Where that becomes a problem is for the used car market. So all of these 20,000, 10,000, 5,000 even over stickers, what that did is that drove the used car market higher. How did it do it? Well, let's say that you're looking at something like, let's just call it a RAV4, right? You look at a RAV4 and brand new, let's say that the RAV4 you're looking at was $35,000. Realistically, right? So you have a $35,000 RAV4, but now you've got a bunch of dealerships marking them up, let's call it $5,000. That was a rough amount they were marking a lot of them up for, not counting the primes, right? So they're marking them up. So you have a $35,000 RAV4, they mark for 40, right? So now at auction, you've got a 2-year-old RAV4, same body style, 2-year-old RAV4 that's going through the auction that, is selling for $2,000 over original MSRP, or even original MSRP. Why? Because the new MSRP was $5,000 higher than that. All right. So as they go through and these things normalize and these new cars start to hit MSRP again, it starts to make no sense to pay over MSRP, over original MSRP for a used car, when you can just say, look, I'm going to wait and get this new one, or if there's new ones on the ground. So if you go to some of the other brands that actually have new cars on the ground that you can buy, why would you buy a used one at over that market? So like a Hyundai Palisade, right? Those things were going for 20, 30,000 over MSRP. And now I've seen some of them, you can get them at MSRP. So now say you own one and it's 2 years old and you paid 20,000 over MSRP and you've been making your payments and you paid it down to the original MSRP, you're upside down. You're still upside down. You're gonna be upside down because nobody's gonna give you original MSRP for a 2-year-old 40,000 mile Palisade when you can buy a brand new one that's got 0 miles for the same price. So that inherently drives the market lower, right? So that's what you're going to start to see on some of these cars, is that the market adjustments have started to wane on a lot of vehicles, right? Have started to come down. Some dealerships are still holding firm, but a lot of those have come down, which in turn has drove the used car market down, which in turn has made the places that make you those offers, the Carvanas, the CarMaxes, those have made those places that would make you those offers have to reevaluate the offer. So even an offer they made a month ago, isn't valid anymore. You're talking about a market that's changing daily, so it doesn't matter anymore, right? So you have to be very, very cognizant of what's going on. If you plan on getting out of your car, and you're upside down in it, you're going to get more upside down in it. It's just going to happen. So you, even as you make your payment, every payment you make, you're probably not getting ahead of what it's doing in value, if you paid that market adjustment. So realistically speaking, make some extra payments, try to get that down. If you've got one, trade out of it early if you plan on getting out of it, because the earlier the better to get out of it. Try to find somebody that's not marking them up over MSRP on vehicles. If you're looking for a new one, if you're looking for a used one, well, market is what the market is. Will it be cheaper in the future? Probably. It looks like we're heading that way. It looks like the used car market will probably end up being cheaper. Not for every brand. That's what's really weird about it. So the brands that have been harder to get, some of your, like your Toyota, right? The brands that have been harder to get, they're still, the used cars are still high. And you have to realize something else too. So you got companies like Ford and Chevy, they don't do sedans anymore. Toyota still does sedans. So like the Toyota Camrys, they're really holding their value, because if you want a sedan and you go to a Ford dealership, the only way to get a sedan is to buy a used Camry, or even, buy a used Taurus, right? So, but the problem is that a lot of people see something like a Taurus and see 100,000 miles on it and get scared of it. Whereas if you have a Taurus and a Camry sitting next to each other, same year, similar, equipment, and, even if the Camry is, $3,000 higher, people will see more value in the Camry because it, is known to last longer. So all that comes into play when you're talking about what your market's going to do. So I think that, Toyota's going to start to catch up a little bit on some of the market. They're going to start to put some vehicles on the ground. It just feels that way, right? Honda, same thing. It feels like they're going to kind of catch up to some of what's going on. I've seen dealerships, the Chrysler dealerships or Stellantis. I've seen Ford dealership. They've all got vehicles on the ground now. Chevys, they've all got vehicles on the ground now. So they're even doing some rebates now. Now here's the other thing to realize too. So with the rebates, so when you start seeing these manufacturers put out rebates, that also kills your used car value. And people are like, how does a new car rebate kill my used car value? So let's say that your used car was worth, before any rebates, let's say it was worth $30,000, right? And the new car was $35,000. Your car was 2 years old, whatever. And then they come by and they put a $3,000 rebate on the new car. Well, in order to keep people still excited about buying your used car, you need to match that rebate on your price to go down that same $3,000, because now the gap, so it's not a $5,000 gap anymore, it's a $2,000 gap, and you're fighting with somebody that's going, well, for $2,000, I'd just rather get the new one. You're going to fight that battle. So when you come to used cars, this is going to be something that is going to be very, very common going forward. It is, right? It's going to be very common going forward, and everybody's going to kind of need to realize exactly what they're looking at. And here is the other thing that I want to be very, very clear on. You need to be realistic on your trade. All right, realize that certain websites don't keep up. Some of these pricing websites, they don't keep up with like day to day. So sometimes they're a few days behind, right? Or even a couple months behind. And you're bringing in and you're waiving some of these online things that you printed up. So no, look, my car's worth $40,000. It's worth $40. Why are you only going to give me $32 for it? Why are you only going to give me $35 for it? Why are you going to? This website says it's worth $40. Keep in mind that in the vast majority of those websites, they have disclaimers down there that say this is not an offer to purchase your vehicle. And most of those websites are basically funded by advertisers. So if they get a reputation that they are the lowest valuation of any of the websites, and nobody goes there, and their clicks go down, and they can't sell the ads the same way, it hurts their business. You don't pay for those. You don't pay for that kind of stuff. So since you don't pay for that kind of stuff, that right there tells you that it's going to be aimed at whoever's paying for it. So always remember that too. So those sites are a guide, and I've told people before, those sites are a guide. But when somebody offers you money for a vehicle and they say, this is what I'm willing to offer, that is the value of the car to them. All right. Might it be worth more to somebody else? Sure. If your neighbor says, you know what, I'll give you $35 for it, dealership says I'll give you $30 for it, well, obviously it's worth more to your neighbor. Maybe you want to sell it to your neighbor. Obviously consider, risk, consider tax implications, stuff like that, before you make your decision on that. But realize that vehicles are worth different things to different people. The other thing that they'll look at too is how do they run at the auction. So worst case scenario, you send it to the auction, right? How do they run at the auction? Do they run 10 times and still not sell, which happens, right? Do they run, right away and sell, but they don't get all the money? Do they, how do they run at the auction? The other thing is, how long do you have to keep it on your lot? Do you on average take that Hyundai and put, you know, $3,000 or $4,000 into it, and then it stays on the lot for 90 days before you sell it, if that's the case, and then compare it to something like a Camry and say the Camry, you put $1,500 in and it stays on your lot 9 days, well, you're going to put more money in the Camry as a relative, you know, amount, because you know that the Camry is going to turn quicker, it's going to take less to maintain it and to get it ready for sale and stuff like that, based off of the information you have. If that, you know, that's one scenario, right? And it's not always the way where the Toyota might not always be the best option for that, but usually it probably is, but it's probably not going to be the best option for that. But just realize, so that's kind of where I see the market currently on the used cars. New cars, like I said, the brands are getting them in. Toyota looks like they're bringing up production, but they've done that before and it's gone back down. So I'm hopeful that they will kind of bring up the production and we can get more and more cars to take care of more and more people, and hopefully get all these market adjustments out. So I think the market adjustments need to be a thing of the past. So like I said, Beeman never did it. So, you know, when it came to marking up cars, so we never did it. So hopefully that means something. But definitely like, subscribe, reach out to me at buyatoyotanashville at yahoo.com, buyatoyotanashville at yahoo.com, and I am definitely happy to help you guys with any questions you have, or you know, let me know what you think of this video. You know, put a comment down there, and I do try to respond to all the comments to know if you guys are paying attention or not. But that's just kind of a quick look at what I see the market doing. And I've been right before, but I have been wrong as well. It was on a Tuesday. It was about 3 years ago. But yeah, I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again, just never on purpose. But anyway, we'll talk to you guys later. You guys have a great day. Bye.